Hello students, welcome to Legacy Academy. In this particular video, we are going to discuss about India's defense leap. Defense leap in the sense that India has increased its overall defense exports all across the world, and today more than 100 countries are buying defense goods and items from India as such. Second, also we have discussed that we have reduced our dependency on the import and we have increased our indigenous production. So this has, we can say, in the last 10 to 12 years has redefined national security of India. So let us try to understand this topic in more detail. Now, as far as India's defense sector is concerned, in the last 11 years, it has witnessed a dramatic transformation and these changes, as government report highlight that they have seen a rapid growth in domestic production of the defense related items, expanded export, and a more inclusive military structure. Now, what does these points stand for? We'll discuss in the later part of the video. But first of all, we have to understand that whenever it comes to defense spending, also we have increased our share of the GDP on defense spending. And if you look at the 2 years, that is in 2013-14, the total spending on the defense sector was about 2.53 lakh crore, which has increased to about 6.81 lakh crore in the recent year of 25 to 26. So this is a jump of almost, we can say, 300% in last 10 years or so as such. Also, we have to understand in parallel indigenous defense manufacturing. That means such defense goods which has been produced and developed within the Indian territory itself has reached a stellar figure of 1.27 lakh crore in the last fiscal year, which has witnessed an increase of almost 174% from again 2014-2015 level. Now, it's not only that India is producing defense goods for its own purpose or for its own what we can call as uses. Also, defense export of India has reached an all-time high figure. So if you look at the data from 2013-2014, in that particular year, the total defense export from India stood at a meager 686 crores. And if you look at here, continuously every year, you can see there has been a continuous rise or increase in this share. And in the last fiscal year, from where we have the latest data available, you can see the defense export have showed up to about 21,000 crore. So from 600 crore, 700 crore, if you can assume roughly. So from 700 to 21,000 crore, you can understand that almost you have 30 times increase in the defense export of India in last 10 years only. So let us try to understand and take a look at where do our defense exports go. So if you look at the country which is buying highest or which has bought highest number of defense item, highest share of defense item from India, that is Myanmar, our neighboring country. Its share stands at about 31%. Second number, you have again another neighboring country, that is Sri Lanka, whose share is 19%. At third, you have an island country of Africa, Mauritius. Then you have Seychelles, Nepal, Armenia. Armenia is very important because you know that after the launch of Operation Sindoor, we have seen a development of Turkey, Azerbaijan, Pakistan axis as such. And Azerbaijan is supported by Pakistan and Turkey, and Azerbaijan is having confrontation with Armenia, and it is Armenia which has bought a huge amount of defense weapons from India as such, the most notable being Akash weapon system and also anti-air defense system Armenia has bought from India as such. Maldives, Ecuador, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Mozambique. So these are the major countries where our defense export is largely going to. If you try to look at what kind of items or the materials India is largely exporting, so at the highest share we have ships that is exported to by India to other countries. Then second highest number we have aircrafts, then we have sensors, armored vehicles, artillery. But overall you can say ship, aircraft, sensors and armored vehicles make up the largest part of defense export from India as such. And overall we can also see a significant change in this ratio as well, because India has now focused on development of indigenous missile, most important and notable being BrahMos as such. So BrahMos also is seen as a very important contender as far as its export competitiveness or export desirability by other countries are concerned, specifically in the context of the Indo-Pakistan war, where we have proven the capability of our indigenous production as well. Now, also we have to look at the surge in the indigenous defense production. So I told you that today India is building most of the items by its own, and from 46,430 crore, that was the indigenous defense production of India, the figure has showed to 1,27,000 crore. So again, you can see almost 2.5 to 3 times increase we have seen in the last 10 years as such. Now, also If you look at India's defense demand, because India has such a huge military capability and also we can say such a high number of defense personnel, it has to maintain vigil at along 15,000 kilometers of the land border and more than 7,000 kilometers of the coastal border. India is also focused on developing the capabilities of its blue water navy, air force as well as army as such. So India again is not completely still reliant on the self production, indigenous production. It also depends on import from various other countries. So if you look at the year between 2018 to 2022, India stood at the largest defense importer in the world as well. However, recently in the last 2 years, this data has changed because after the breakout of Russia-Ukraine war, we have seen Ukraine taking up the first position as far as the import of defense items or goods is concerned. But overall, again, if you look at traditionally, conventionally, India always has enjoyed a very high share of defense import. But in the future, again, because we are on the path of indigenization, as we have discussed before, obviously this number, this percentage is expected to go down as such. Now the question comes that where are we importing most of our arms from? Now again, traditionally, Russia has been the largest supplier of defense goods and items to India, so it has maintained its position. However, the decline in the position of Russia is clearly noticeable. If you go back to year 2013-2014, the total share of India's import from Russia stood somewhere about 68 to 70%. So from 68 to 70%, now today its figure has reduced to mere 45%. So obviously we are seeing a kind of drawdown from Russia as far as its export to India is concerned. And clearly we are seeing that India is trying to diversify its import basket as well, because earlier France used to have very low share, but today it has increased significantly its share to 28.6%, largely on the ground of Rafale fighter planes being imported by India as such. Similarly, US also has emerged as a major supplier of military weapons as such. For example, India has received C-130J Hercules military transport aircraft. It also has signed deal to import Apache helicopter, and apart from that also US and India have signed a deal to import, India will import basically Predator drones as well, plus many other goods and the what you can call as aircraft and all that India has imported from United States. Israel, as far as the drone and the anti-air defense system is concerned, Israel enjoys a very good share as compared to the other countries. So top four major countries again are Russia, France, US and Israel. However, we are seeing a decline in export from Russia to India, increase in import to India from France, US, Israel as such, and this trend is expected to continue in the future as well. The reason is because Russia has engulfed itself in a war of its own making, and many times it is not able to produce defense goods in the same capacity as it used to do before, largely also because of sanctions. And the best example we can see is the case when total 5 S-400 air defense system has to be imported from Russia, but it has been able to supply only 3 till now. So that is why a shift clearly is visible and is expected to continue. Now, as far as the extent of indigenization is concerned, today, as per the government of India's report, about 65% of our defense requirement is dependent on the domestic production, home-based production, compared to a heavy earlier dependence on imports as well. Second, Ministry of Defense has signed 193 contracts. If you look at the year 24-25, and out of this 2.09 lakh crore of the contract that Ministry of Defense has signed, interestingly, about 1.69 lakh crore of contract has been awarded to domestic firm as such. That means here also we can see that almost 70% of the contract Ministry of Defense has awarded to domestic manufacturer. That means we can say that in this particular year, 70% of defense-based production will happen in the India or within India itself. Private sector's role in defense output has also risen. For example, we have seen coming up of Reliance Industries, we have seen coming up of different other industries contributing roughly 21% in the overall defense production, while over 430 licensed firms and 16,000 MSMEs now support a broad industrial base. Now, this is a very good news because this is just the beginning. India has to focus on, it already has focused, it already has given what you can call as indication that in the future it will try to increase its overall defense production base. Also, as we have discussed that today our defense export stands at about 21,000 crore, and the government of India has given a target that it want to reach a figure of 50,000 crore by 2030 as well. So in both these cases, the support of these licensed firm MSME will play a huge role as such. Apart from that, one of the changes that we are seeing is gender inclusivity in the armed forces of India as well. Around 11,000 women, as per the Ministry of Defence, now serve as officers in the armed forces, up from approximately 3,000 that we had in 2014. That means again here also we are seeing almost 300% of increase in the number of female officers. In addition, 507 women have been granted permanent commission to advance career progression in the defense itself. Also, we have witnessed a change of doctrine. For example, beyond mere numbers, the period has included doctrine and operational changes as well. India has increased its vigil along the borders of India, and it has highlighted there is a enhanced counter-terrorism action being taken by the Indian security forces, specifically along the Jammu and Kashmir sector and northeastern sector as well. Plus, strategic border operations have been conducted by the defense forces, largely to protect and ensure our internal security, unity, sovereignty and integrity of India is not violated by the state or non-state actors and their acts as such. Now, obviously, in all of these positive news, there are certain challenges that we also have to highlight as far as the defense sector of India is concerned. Obviously, we have increased our share of indigenous production, but still there are several hurdles that we face. For example, first is the quality control. Second is the delays in project execution. Third is limited R&D spending. And the best example of this we can see is a case of HAL. Now, we know that Tejas aircraft has been making for many years, and many times there has been postponement in the actual date when Tejas can be included, or the aircraft can be included within the Air Force itself. And about this also, the current Air Force chief has shown his discontentment and disappointment with the way how the projects have been executed and the time duration which is being continuously stretched. Third, obviously, India is having a very limited R&D spending as far as defense is concerned, because whenever we're talking about defense, indigenous defense production, in most of the cases, technology, for example, BrahMos, when you talk about, it is the transfer of technology that has been done by the Russian companies or the Russian government as such. Similarly, when you talk about the production of drones or anti-air defense system, many times technology has been transferred and co-production, co-development is being done between India and Israel as such. So as far as the R&D spending is concerned, it is very low if you refer the data from US, Israel, UK or even China, which is the biggest rival or arch rival that we have along our border. So there is a need for deeper integration between the defense PSUs and private industries, so that more and more spending can be done and India can actually become what you can call as self-dependent as far as the defense production is concerned, whether it is the development of the goods, weapons, or whether it is the technology itself. India also remains dependent on foreign technology, I told you, specifically for critical sectors such as jet engines, stealth systems, as well as advanced sensor research. Additionally, defense indigenization has increased in scale, but true technological self-reliance is something that India has not yet achieved, and this should be our next goal in next few decades as such. And to achieve this, we need to have a firm focus on consistent investment in research. We need to have a possibility to retain talent within India, so that they know that, specifically talk about the engineering graduates or talk about the graduates coming from the STEM background, that not leave India, they have to work and they should work for India. And third, we have to have a long-term strategic planning. How can we achieve and how are we going to achieve our goal as such? Still, the changes over the past decade suggest India is positioning itself as both a regional power and a more assertive player in the global defense ecosystem, and this trend is expected to continue, and there is no other option as well, because again, if we try to look at the Operation Sindoor case itself, we have not received a lot of firm support from our allies, whether they are traditional allies or non-traditional allies, and this is something which clearly points to the fact that we cannot depend on any other country, no matter what kind of relationship we have enjoyed in the past or what kind of relations we have with those countries in the present. We cannot depend, as far as the defense sector is concerned, on any other country in the future if we have to defend ourselves against the attack by Pakistan, China, and thus there is no other way out but to become truly self-reliant, both in the sphere of defense technology as well as in the case of in the area of defense production as well. That is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.